Aloha! What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about Misfit Inventors. There have been a handful of amazing, innovative inventors across time, really, who have come up with the most just spectacular, mind-blowing, and sometimes just real simple inventions. And they have been ridiculed. They have been, some people think, perhaps taken out. Their work has been stolen. You're going to meet three of these particular misfit inventors today. We're going to go over George Van Tassel over here on the left, thanks to actually one of my callers who called in and talked to me about it. That's a pretty amazing story. Then we're going to go over to Edward Leedskalnin in the middle there, and the Coral Castle. And last but not least, one of my personal favorites, Girolamo Segato. Mr. Mud Fossil, the original one. So we're going to talk about these men, their inventions, and feel free in the chat. Hey, Michael Carlson, thanks for letting me know that the audio is good. I appreciate you. All right, cool. Let's jump into things. We are live streaming. Welcome if you're checking us out right now. I'm going to go ahead and actually put this little slideshow on so you guys can have some things to look at here. So we'll play some images. The first one, where we're going to begin, is with, we're going to go with George Van Tassel. Okay, so he's the guy all the way over here on the left-hand side. If you were listening to my call-in show I did last week, you probably learned a little bit about George Van Tassel. This building that you see in the background, this dome-shaped building, this is one of his inventions, actually. That building is technology. It's not a building for sleeping in or, you know, a house to stay in or anything. It's literally a rejuvenation machine. So let's check out some information here about George Van Tassel. He was born in 1910 and died in 1978. He died under very mysterious circumstances. And this invention, I'm going to go ahead and read to you what it says. It's going to show you this plaque up here too. But this invention is called the Integratron. The Integratron is the creation of George Van Tassel and is based on the design of Moses' tabernacle, the writings of Nikola Tesla, and telepathic directions from extraterrestrials. The domed structure, 35 feet high, 55 feet in diameter, was originally constructed of wood and fiberglass without the aid of metal fasteners. In 1947, George Van Tassel began operating the Giant Rock Airport a short distance northeast of here, where he built this. And in 1953, initiated communications with extraterrestrials. He subsequently hosted 17 spacecraft conventions for UFO enthusiasts. The purpose of the Integratron is the rejuvenation of the human body, similar to recharging a battery, and basic research in time travel. According to Van Tassel, the Integratron is located on an intersection of powerful geomagnetic forces that, when focused by the unique geometry of the building, aka the architecture, will concentrate and amplify the energy required for cellular rejuvenation. This energy is created by the revolution of an internal ring at the shoulder of the building, generating electrostatic forces that are fed to the stator centered in the lower room. Construction began in 1957, but was incomplete at Van Tassel's death in 1978. Well, isn't that interesting? Let's learn a little bit about his death. I mean, do you think that he died of natural causes? Someone that's literally building a machine that can allow people to rejuvenate themselves at a cellular level, eradicate diseases, and things of that nature? My guess is no. My guess is no. But let's look up the strange circumstances of his death. It says here, George Van Tassel died in Santa Ana while printing a publication and visiting with friends. There is some controversy surrounding Van Tassel's death, as he was known to be healthy at age 67, but the cause of death was listed as a heart attack. Van Tassel's body was cremated before his family was advised of his death. They cremated him before they even told his family. That sounds pretty fast, doesn't it? Just getting rid of his body and possible evidence or something. According to his own widow, government agents ransacked their home and confiscated his papers and equipment while she was attending his funeral. So think about that. This guy creates this rejuvenation machine, right? Hold on, I'm going to actually stop this slideshow real quick. This guy creates architecture that, eerily enough, resembles a lot of ancient architecture. I just put out a short video. You can go to my short section and check it out. It's all about cathedrals as rejuvenation machines. Not just cathedrals as well, but let's take a look at some of these images of the Integratron. This one right here works perfectly. This dome-shaped seems to have been used throughout antiquity, right? Forcing and manipulating either sounds through cymatics and or inner earth, what I believe to be geoplasmas, right? Electrostatic forces, exactly as it was described on the plaque that was left behind. Those electrostatic forces rise up from within the earth in what I call these places of power. And that's what my second book is really all about. My second book is really all about those places of power and how the ancient people, during a time whenever the earth was releasing energy from inside and the atmosphere was electrically charged, that it affected architecture, that the people had to adjust the way that they lived, the way that they dressed, the places that they went to, and they not only built things to keep themselves safe from an amplified electrical field, aka lightning, right? They didn't want to get electrocuted and stuff, but they also harnessed the energy, not just the energy that was above, ambient, streaking about in plasma dragons and fireworms and seraphim and fiery serpents and whatnot, right? Those would be the more dangerous types that was ambient in the fields above. But there was also geoplasmas that erupted from within the earth as the inner earth was actually depressurizing, and all of that gas shoots up, and like it said, through electrostatic forces, it ionizes and becomes a geoplasma. This is life-giving, healing earth energy. And everyone knows that the earth gives off healing energy, right? I mean, I know that. I don't know how many other people know that. But these buildings were designed to work with those electrical fields. And it seems to me that he tapped into that. Now, the story goes that he was in touch with aliens. Hey, moi, freestyle life. High five. Welcome to my channel. They say he was in touch with aliens. Well, I also think that the governments of the world have been in touch and trying to speak to certain quote-unquote alien race. I don't think that they're extraterrestrial, personally. I think they're interterrestrial, that they are those inhabitants of the hollow earth that are down underneath us. There may be exceptions to that too. There's always anomalies and exceptions. But yeah, it's just interesting to me that he allegedly met these people. Same thing, same story with Admiral Byrd, right? According to the Secret Diary of Admiral Byrd, he went down into the hollow earth, met these extraterrestrial giant humanoids, and had conversations with them and saw advanced forms of technology. Same thing with Hitler. He went to Antarctica to visit the Ubermen, right? So we see this time and time again. So it's interesting to me, especially during this modern age where, you know, secret organizations are said and rumored to have frequency weapons that can increase a person's heart rate to the point of heart attack and, you know, microwave them from a distance and stuff too, right? So this guy basically replicated ancient technology, which is really antiquitech, in the modern world, and he figured out how to create cellular rejuvenation and time travel. So this right here, if you're a fan of the older television show called Quantum Leap, you could imagine Dr. Sam Beckett, who, you know, traveled back in time or whatever, standing inside of this plasma-filled device or whatever, and it changes him at a cellular level. It's literally a little fountain of youth, right? And I also think that this is possibly what the Germans were experimenting with. specifically Hitler. What was he experimenting with? With what was popularly known as the German bell. I didn't think to put a picture of the German bell up there. I don't even know if they really have a picture. They have schematics and stuff too. But the Germans were deep into the esoteric under Hitler's reign, right? He had an entire department of arcane researchers who looked up the esoteric and studied it. And they were creating a machine that some people saw flashes of light coming out of, and sometimes orbs of plasma or balls of light or ball lightning basically floating around this device. It sounds to me very similar, right? All right, cool. That's George Van Tassel. Let's go ahead and move on to our next of the wanted Misfit Inventors. Next up, let's see. Let's go to the middleman, Edward Leedskalnin. Now, I actually, on my website, I have a whole section on Edward Leedskalnin under my Ancient Oblivion tab. You can learn all about him. There's a video on there as well. And I talk about his coral castle, which is probably his most famous invention. So Edward Leedskalnin was born in 1887 and died in 1951. He was a Latvian immigrant to the United States and a self-taught engineer who single-handedly built the Coral Castle in Florida. And it's added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1984. He was also known for developing theories of magnetism. So we've got one guy working with electrostatics, another guy working with magnetism, simple concepts, but lost ancient knowledge. These are not things that are commonly taught to children in schools these days for practical purpose, for practical application, really. All right, so let's get to the good stuff about Edward Leedskalnin. As you can see, the guy weighs about 90 pounds, right? And he built an entire castle of tons and tons of megalithic stones made out of a quarry, or made from a quarry, of coral, which is basically just rock, real dense rock, right? These things weigh tons, and he was able to shape each one of these. There's even a swiveling door, an entrance, that's perfectly balanced. So much so that a child could just touch it, and the door will revolve, and it will open up. Right? Now, this is interesting. I actually have this story memorized, so I don't really need to check the notes that much. But the story goes that after he had built, first of all, he had some great love that he always referred to, right? He always referred to his great love as his sweet 16. It was very enigmatic. Nobody really knew what Edward Leedskalnin was talking about. But anytime they asked him, and many people asked him, what's your secret? How do you do this? So much so it started to gain popularity and people would come. It was a public spectacle. And then the government caught wind of this coral castle and this guy who seems to have brought back ancient technology and figured out how to move megalithic stones on his own. So he was paid a visit one night by some goons, some hired goons. And those goons threatened him, bullied him, beat him up, and told him under threat of law that this land is not technically your land. They came up with some loophole as to why the government needed that land back, and that he was to forfeit it and move his castle. And they didn't think that he was up to it. So they thought they were just going to claim his castle because they were going to claim the land that it was on. Well, Edward Leedskalnin had other plans. He knew how to move megalithic stones. The stories say he moved them through vibration. People saw him whistling and making strange sounds as he would walk about at night. People far away. He would always do this when no one was watching. And according to eyewitness reports, the stones levitated in front of him as he walked, and they would just fall right into place. Now, after he was threatened by these hired goons, he had a certain amount of time to pick up and move, or the government was going to be able to, lay claim to his work, to his inventions and architecture, right? Ancient architecture. And of course they would try to study it, reverse engineer it, try to figure out how he did it, or they just wanted to keep it away from the public, right? Here's what he did. He packed every single item, every stone, every megalithic brick, every stone couch or recliner, as you can see here, everything. And he moved it about 90 miles away, all by himself. Nobody knows how he did it. It's approximately, I don't remember if it's 90 miles, but pretty far away, okay? 40, I don't know. But he moved it really far away, and he rebuilt Coral Castle all on his own. And it became an attraction. He charged, I don't know, like 5 or 10 cents for admission. People would come and check it out. And that was the story of Edward Leedskalnin. He wrote enigmatic books in code as well. All right, let's get to this next one. This next one is one of my very favorites. His name is Girolamo Segato. I call him Mr. Mud Fossil. If you know what mud fossils are, let's go ahead and check out a little bit more about Girolamo Segato. Now it says here Girolamo Segato was born in June of 1792. Now the 1700s were ripe with inventors. They were ripe with ancient forms of technology as well. I'm sure many of you guys saw the short video I put out about the 1700s robots, also known as automatons, that still work today. Technology, machines from hundreds of years ago that still work today. And we have things today that break down all of the time. So 1792, he died in 1836. He was an Italian naturalist, a cartographer, an Egyptologist, and he studied anatomy. He's perhaps best known for his work in artificial petrification of human cadavers. What does that mean? In simple terms, he turned people into stone. He is the only recorded and known instance of a human being ever being able to do this. We're not talking about mummification. We're talking about turning the human body, albeit a dead human body, I'm sure this would probably work on a live subject too, into rock. Now that's really interesting to me, someone that studies comparative mythology, because I've seen all across the board, throughout history, all throughout time, hundreds of examples of story after story of people, human beings, giants, titans sometimes, but oftentimes regular old human beings who were turned into stone, sometimes by witches, sometimes by warlocks, wizards, gods, and the like, right? So this is very interesting stuff. Let me show you some pictures here too. I want to show you some of his examples. His work still remains today. He was actually commissioned and hired by nobility to make things like tables out of human body parts. Imagine that. Nobility would like something as strange and weird as having furniture made out of human body parts that are rock now, right? I'll show you some examples. This is a bust, or this is a head of Girolamo Segato. As you can see, they put snakes coming out of his head in Medusa-like fashion. This goes back to ancient, what I call our ancient Oblivion, or hidden history. During the ancient world, the time of magic, whenever, like I said earlier, the atmosphere was electrically amplified. The thunderbolts of the gods were raining down as fiery arrows being thrown down to the earth, or holy darts, or whatnot. And some people, according to the myths and the legends, who were struck by those thunderbolts, petrified. One of the most famous examples is Lot's wife in the Old Testament of the Bible. Whenever the city of Sodom and Gomorrah was being destroyed by fire from the heavens, Lot's wife was warned not to look back. She did, and she became a quote-unquote pillar of salt, rock, crystal form. So, the same story with Medusa too. And I've talked about the whole Medusa symbolism. If you follow my work, I talk about how up above the dome, that the dome inverts and it dips down at the top, creating what's known as the shield of Zeus, or the Aegis. And it opens up whenever the atmosphere depressurizes. And when it opens up, plasma snakes, as they're seen, plasma serpents or whatever, ionized hydrogen from the other side of the dome, or the plasmasphere within academics, seeps in, comes down to seek to ground itself to our world, right? And that's the whole story of Medusa. And that's also why Medusa in the ancient world was almost always portrayed as just a head, usually a head on a shield or a dome, right? All right, let's check out some more stuff here. Here's another portrait of Girolamo Segato. Here's one of his works, one of his tables, and he has petrified human skin on the top. The rest of the table is just made out of wood and stuff, but on the top he would laminate it, right? You can't really, can you see this picture? Oh yeah, you can. So up here we have a human head. This is all stone. Okay, so this head is stone. This bust over here is stone. And it's been preserved for hundreds of years, since the 1700s, around that time. There's also various other human body parts, like ears and things like that. There's a head. There's an actual, this is one of the heads that he petrified, right? And this is also really interesting to me too, because back during the 1700s, the Middle Ages, we see many examples of people that worked all the time with cadavers. Like, you know, paying people good money for fresh dead bodies or subjects so that they could experiment on them. Now, modern academics will say, oh, well, that led us to modern medicine and modern this and that. But in other times, they were bringing the dead back to life, Mary Shelley Frankenstein style, or trying to, creating zombies and petrifying people and really weird experiments that don't really make the headline news. Here's another table. As you can see down here, this is actually an ear. So that's a human ear right there. The rest of it, I forget what body parts the rest of these are. There's another ear right over here. Let me zoom in on that ear. Obviously, there's a big fat foot. This is all authentic. It's been preserved. There's actually a whole museum exhibit specifically for Girolamo Segato's petrified human body parts. Now, if a human can petrify another human through technology or knowledge, science, or whatnot, isn't it possible Mother Nature would be capable of the same exact feats, being more powerful and having all access to all resources that Mother Nature has? I say yes. I say that that's happened many times. As a matter of fact, we have ample evidence across the world of biological petrification in the form of what's known as the petrified forests of the world. I think I posted a picture. I took my son up to the Colorado Rockies, where we actually have our own petrified forest. Not of little tiny cedar trees or smaller trees, of redwood trees. Gigantic redwood trees, as bigger than I can stretch my arms out, and I'm 6'2". Huge petrified trees up in the top of the Rockies. That's interesting. But just the fact that biological life could have been petrified. And it's also interesting too, because academics will tell you that these petrified redwood trees, there's an organ that's been petrified. These petrified redwood trees, it's because there was a mudslide locally. Like, there's petrified trees across the world. You can't tell me that it was just a mudslide everywhere, unless there was some kind of a mud flood that happened, unless there was some type of worldwide flood. That I could see that as a possibility. Maybe mix that in with some thunderbolts from the gods and some plasma dragons coming down to rearrange atoms, electrons and neutrons, to create brand new materials as a type of philosopher's stone, right? But anyways, yeah, up in the Colorado Rockies, no, you can't. I think I posted some pictures, if I remember correctly. Here's one of the heads. That's actual human being, you know, and that's rock. That is not mummified. It's kind of gross, so I'm going to skip to the next picture. Anyways, here's Girolamo Segato's portrait, and let me tell you the story, the backstory on Girolamo Segato as well. So something similar happened to him. He was visited by your local government goons, the story goes. And they insisted, just like with Edward Leedskalnin, that he reveal his secrets. Guess what he said? Nope, no can do. I'm not telling you my secrets, right? So they basically beat him up, and many people believe he was murdered for his work. They stole all of his notes. And I think this is actually on the Wikipedia article too. I can't remember. I'm going off of memory at the moment. Hold on, let me double check. See if they have anything on it here. Girolamo Segato. I doubt they're going to have anything on that in the Wikipedia article because they're more mainstream. Yeah, they don't really have anything about that. But if you look deeper into the internet, you'll find the story of the hired goons visiting Girolamo Segato, the inventor, demanding that he share his secrets and his work with the rest of the world, and then stealing his notes. This has happened time and time again. I'm sure you guys in the chat are probably sharing many examples. Like the guy that made the car that runs on water or vapor or whatever it was, right? Yeah, they don't tend to like that kind of stuff when you discover their ancient secrets and then start, you know, making public displays and possibly, you know, putting things out there that other people can reverse engineer. And then all of a sudden they can't make money anymore. That's really kind of what it oftentimes boils down to. Money and power. And that's the reason why we have such amazing, these people to me are like my mentors. I look up to these types of people. These types of people are brilliant. These types of people are self-taught. These type of people didn't need to go to the Wizard of Oz, aka college, spend $100,000 or $200,000 to get there and get approval from everyone just to have a rolled up piece of paper that says, you learned it, good job. Now go get a job at McDonald's, right? It's good to see everybody having a good time in the chat. Oh yeah, the cure for cancer, says Andrew. Yeah, you guys, the hydrogen car, yep, that's a good example too. All right, sweet. Hey, listen, if you like this type of information, go check out my website. Like I said, especially under the Ancient Oblivion, you can go check all the information about. Oh, and if you look in my my posts, you guys earned 2 free months to be a member and have full access to my entire website for 2 months. So there's a code that you can use, a coupon code in my posts section. Go check that out. Sign up if you'd like to. There's also a free 24-hour cram session if you just want to check it out for a day or whatever. If you want to support my work, obviously we've got like Cash App and Venmo and Patreon and all that stuff. Patreon gets you into the credits, which we're about to roll right now. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has joined my Patreon, and especially everyone who is in the chat. My Patreon has a chat. It's actually got a few different topical chats. And you guys are starting to share really cool pictures, get to know each other. People are making friends, and I like to see that. All right, cool. Well, that was just a short episode for today. Be sure to leave some comments if you guys want to contribute or add to the conversation. And until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
Something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier on me if I turn away to flee. But there's something holding on in the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake I'll try so hard to fade away, but
but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. But there's something holding on in the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to